This video is intended only for mature audiences. Viewer discretion is advised. Hello everyone, I'm a water treater plant operator. Been doing this about a decade. I've been the night shift guy my whole career. The nights are normally quiet and can be boring if everything goes to plan. My plant has a few different builds. The oldest is 60 or so years old. The main building I spend the majority of my shift in is only roughly 20 years old. For more backstory on the area, this used to be a booming energized area. This area was littered with railroad tracks and drifters coming and going on the trains of yesteryear. Our farms and factories were very bountiful back then. Now that you all understand that, you must also understand that with success in an area, there is also darkness. From the settling of the area, wars with natives, and even into the 30s and 40s of people being killed in train wrecks and bad business deals, the grounds are laced with darkness. The silence of the night shift can be eerie all on its own. Lots of bumps and bangs and dimly lit darkness. On the night I am now about to speak about, everything started out as normal. I came in around sunset, got the nightly Passover, and began my work. Around midnight, I had to do my rounds around the property while getting the nightly pump numbers. I made my rounds with nothing but a flashlight around the main building. The oldest building is a good walking distance away from the main building. I set out in the dark and headed for that building. I must also add that we aren't in the nicest area of town. However, I'm a big guy and can hold my own. As I made my walk, I got an uneasy feeling. I had gotten them before, but I have a job to do and nothing came out of it. I rounded the corner and unlocked the door. As I did this, the hairs on the back of my neck stood up. Again, I have a job to do, though. I opened the door, and there stood nothing. I walked in and proceeded to get my numbers. I turned around to walk to the exit. As I turned to shut the door, I looked up and down the hallway to see a woman in pure white look at me through the other door. I almost jumped out of my boots and pissed myself a little. I fell backwards. As I came back to reality, I once again made eye contact with this entity. As I met her gaze, everything in me said, "Hey! Your life is in danger, buddy." Her face distorted and started to shift around. I was now frozen as she shifted into what looked like an Indian warrior. Her eyes were glowing. As I got to my feet, she had shifted into this huge wolf creature. The growls were chilling to say the least. It snarled and then ran towards me. I had no time to even shut the door. I ran as fast as I could, screaming bloody murder. I felt it trying to bite my backside. It got a hold of my pant leg and tore it to shreds. I stumbled and rolled, but somehow managed to come up to my feet. I darted into the main building, and as I shut the door, I felt a hard thud on the other side. I locked the doors and cowered down inside. I could hear the thing crashing into the building and growling and scratching at the walls. I got the courage to look out the window, just to end up face to face with the white lady again. I had the police come and sit with me until the sun came up. No one else has seen the white lady since. It's quite freaky, but I have a job to do. Let's start this with a little backstory. I live in a really small town in Finland. Roughly 300 people live in my town, mostly workers of nearby factories and elderly people. In summertime, our town is busy from tourists and other travelers, but this story happened during wintertime. During winter, our town is a total ghost town. I work in our town's pub as a bartender, and despite the quiet winters, we keep the pub open for people to have a place to spend time and not get so lonely. It was a normal winter Friday, quiet and cold. I had a couple locals as customers playing some tunes from the jukebox and getting hammered, while I was keeping the fire burning in the fireplace. Winter had just started, and we were discussing when it will start to get really snowy. The night went well, and not so surprisingly, probably 1 hour before closing, it started to snow really heavily. I closed the pub normally, and after I got the place cleaned, I started to make paperwork. Our pub closes at 2 o'clock a.m., and it was around 3 o'clock a.m. when I heard a really loud banging coming from our pub's staff door. It was like someone had a fucking death or life emergency banging, and I went beast mode right away. I didn't know what to do or who it was. I went closer to the door and I heard a man's voice.
"Please help me. Open the door. Is there someone in there?"
And I remembered that I did some fast thinking of what it could be. Really, it could be a trick to get me to open the door, and someone could rob our pub since we live far away from everything, but Still, it could be someone in real danger, like being chased by a fucking bear or wild boar. I decided to take my trusty baseball bat that I keep behind the bar at all times, and I went to open the door. The man literally rushed through me inside to the bar, and the first thing that I do is close the door behind him. I don't want anything else to come in. I recognize the man as one of the locals. He never comes to our bar, but I know that he has a really bad alcohol problem. I noticed that he doesn't have shoes or gloves or a hat. He was just wearing normal clothes that you would wear in your house, and it's fucking freezing. He starts to speak so fast that I didn't understand anything. I told him to slow down. Then he tells me,
Rubber faces, rubber faces. They're chasing me. Please help me.
Of course, I think the guy is just drunk as fuck, but something in the man's eyes tells me that he's really scared for his life, and it gives me the creeps. I can't see outside very well. It's still snowing heavily, and it's dark as hell, and we don't have streetlights. I try to look from every window, but as we have no streetlights, I can't see anything. I know a woman that is very good friends of this poor guy, and I decide to try calling her. She answers, and I tell her that I'm sorry to call her this late, but her friend is pretty messed up at the bar right now and could use someone to come pick him up. She tells me that she'll grab her coat and come. It won't take long because she lives just next to the pub. The guy is still pacing back and forth through the pub and mumbling about the rubber faces when the woman finally comes to pick him up. She tells me that the guy is on pretty strong medication and he probably just hasn't taken his meds. She also tells me that she'll take the guy to her place for the night since it's safer and it's a shorter way for her. I'm just happy that it was over. I finish my paperwork and get ready to go home. I'm still thinking about this guy and the rubber faces, and it makes me pretty nervous because the apartments where the guy lives is right near my house. I decide to take the bat and flashlight with me because it's still dark as hell and we have no streetlights. When I get to the road next to our pub, I'm watching my surroundings very closely because it's deep forest on both sides. Then it happens. I notice the footprints in the snow. My heart skips a beat and I panic. There are ones that lead to our pub, and then there are 3 distorted pairs of footprints that looked like they had been following the first ones. Then I hear a loud snapping of a branch from the forest nearby and fucking start to run like the wind. I hadn't run so fast in a long time. I run the whole way home and I never looked back. This story still scares the shit out of me. I still don't know what those footprints meant and what was lurking in the forest, but I know that everything wasn't right that night, and I'm happy that I never met the things that made the last 3 pairs of footprints. I recently got a job at a hotel downtown from where I live. I have never worked in the hotel industry before, so I had no idea what to expect. The time between applying for the job and being hired was less than 24 hours, which made me nervous, but I had been looking for several months and couldn't find anything, so I thought I'd take the chance. This hotel is about 150 years old and has plenty of character. Behind the front desk, there are places where the wallpaper has torn away, revealing the psychedelic wallpaper from what I can only guess was the 1970s. We're talking bright pink, neon green, hookah-induced vision type of wallpaper. The walls and the upper floors are painted bright orange and yellow, and the hallways are narrow enough to give off a shining kind of feel to it, but I'll elaborate on that later. My manager is a young Chinese man in his mid-20s, only 5 years older than me. The man who owns the building is also Chinese. The owner is friendly and kind to the employees, but he's also rich enough that he doesn't really care if the hotel is up to par. I learned recently that he also owns one of the more run-down shopping centers downtown. So this might explain the less than 5-star quality of the hotel, probably about a 3.5 star in my opinion. Some people describe this place as quaint, unique, and full of character, while others describe it as outdated or disappointing. As a history enthusiast, I would agree that the place is full of character, but I also think the owner should be a little more concerned about keeping the place clean. There are lots of problems in this hotel, including mice, broken toilets, falling ceiling tiles, leaks, and other maintenance nightmares. The fancier rooms on the upper floors have real fireplaces in them, so that adds the risk of fires at the hand of careless guests. Mice are a common problem, and I'm thankful the guests don't have to see all the dusty traps filled with the dead rodents in the basement. But by far, the most interesting aspect of the hotel is that it's supposed to be haunted. There are 2 ghosts that have been reported in the building, as well as the adjoining pub next door. Back when the hotel was first built, it had the reputation of being a complete dive. A lady now named Lady Churchill died in the hotel, and her spirit supposedly lingers in the haunted room 49. Guests will occasionally smell her perfume or see her face in the mirror. One of the most frightening stories included someone opening the door to have Old Lady Churchill fly at them in a fury. On my first day, when my boss toured me around the hotel, he pointed out the haunted room to me. Lady Churchill had also been spotted at the fireplace in the pub arguing with her boyfriend, the other resident ghost, Brady. Brady was stabbed to death on a basement stairwell. That stairwell is not in use anymore, as it leads from the street directly into the basement. Instead, it's used to store extra chairs and miscellaneous items. The light is never turned on, which adds more of a creep factor. My shift is the day shift from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. Every morning when I come in, I have to check the entire hotel by myself in search of homeless people sleeping in the back stairwell or trying to get in through the basement. I'm not an intimidating person. I'm a short female, not physically fit, and too friendly for my own good. If I did find someone hiding in the hotel, what was I supposed to do about it? I'm not sure what creeps me out more. The fact that I'm going around looking for people who shouldn't be there, or the idea that I have to walk through dark and silent areas known to be haunted all by myself. My sweep of the hotel includes all 4 floors of guest rooms, the kitchen, the back stairwell, the basement stairwell, and the basement. To give you some context, the back stairwell serves as a fire escape connecting all the floors together. It goes straight down to the street level. It's always cold and echoey in there, and as I said before, full of dead mice. The 4 floors for guest rooms in all their overlook hotel glory are shaped like a square horseshoe, which means more than enough blind corners where creepy twins might suddenly appear. Lady Churchill's haunted room is at the end of the hall around one of these blind corners. And yes, I do think about that every time I search the hotel. There's an elevator and an interior stairway, the one guests are supposed to use. Behind the elevator is this old connecting hallway that basically serves no purpose anymore. In the past, it may have been useful, but now it just serves as a secret passageway that goes behind the elevator and comes out at the other end of the horseshoe. This hallway especially needs to be searched for homeless people, drunks, or people having sex. The basement is by far the creepiest part of the hotel. To get there, you can either take the elevator or go through the pub and down the stairs. I prefer to go through the pub because there are some fascinating black and white photos from when the hotel was first built, and I love to look at them. It's also the best place to see the age of the brick foundation. Anyway, the basement is used for storing beer kegs, firewood, planter pots, housekeeping items, and maintenance tools, among other things. It's usually deserted. Now that I know the dark, unused basement stairway is where Brady's spirit is supposed to be, I think I'll try to spend even less time down there. This week, however, is my 2nd week of work, and my boss has put me on the afternoon-evening shift, just so I can get a sense of what it's like in case I have to cover anybody in the future. Yesterday was my first late shift, and in that time I learned a whole bunch of things I didn't want to know from the lady I worked with. This woman, let's call her Peggy, has been at the hotel for 14 years. She's seen all there is to see and is well known for her stories. I have listened to some of these stories, and honestly, part of me thinks she's full of shit, but the other part is going to cautiously believe her, on the off chance that it's true. Here are some things I learned about the hotel in the span of one night shift. Number 1. The man I'm replacing was not actually fired for chronic lateness, as my boss had told me, but instead for sexual harassment. The head of housekeeping, a man I get along with very well, is a friend of his. Number 2. The day before, Peggy caught a drug addict rooting around in the private back office after hours. We looked over the security footage and he was definitely searching for something. We now keep the office locked. Number 3. There were 2 guests several years ago who stayed at the hotel, and the next day they robbed a jewelry store downtown and fled back to the hotel with everything they'd stolen. There was a massive police standoff on the roof, SWAT teams and all. There was a news article about it online, otherwise I never would have believed it. Number 4. The bedrock of the hotel can be found in the boiler room. There's a slight gap that has been filled in on the top right corner that connects directly to the street. One time Peggy came down to the boiler room and found a man half through the gap head first, trying to get in because he wanted to know what was down there. That image terrifies me. In the span of that one night shift, an alarm went off in the basement. The police showed up at the pub, and a guest verbally abused the staff over a non-existent shuttle to the hospital. No, not an ambulance, a shuttle. Taking the bus was beneath him, I suppose. And at my bus stop after my shift, a man was shooting up in public. My city has a drug epidemic going on right now. My bus took a half an hour to arrive, and when I got off at my stop, it was foggy as Silent Hill. I felt as though I should have been looking around for Michael Myers or Jason Voorhees. It is so October after all. That's one night shift down. I have another tonight, and one more the day after. If anything else interesting happens, I'll keep you folks updated. I mostly just wanted to get all of this off my chest. It's amazing how different the hotel is after 3 p.m. Much louder, that's for sure, thanks to the pub on one side and a bar on the other. Everyone I've gotten to know during my first week of work has already gone home, leaving me with drunks and strangers and Peggy's crazy stories. One thing's for sure, after 3 nights of this, I'll never complain about getting up early again.